Tuesday, August the 23rd. Thank you so much for showing up. We have these every quarter, the opportunity to come and speak and ask questions of board commissioners about anything that's on the mind. Special focus though on T-Splice, surrounding those and some information we have share with you. T-Splice is a transportation special purpose write-off and sales tax that's dedicated to exclusively to transportation purposes. So we have 1 penny sales tax on current sales tax on exception of motor fuel. Diesel fuel affected by this additional 1%. Counties around us that have T-Splice, Clark County, so the 8% sales tax on both. T-Splice will run for 5 years, and if it's approved by the voters, we'll start collecting on April 1st of 2023. Okay. So T-Splice will run for 5 years, and we'll be collecting on April 1st of 2023. So all cities within the county have chosen to participate in the T-Splice. We split the revenue based on a population calculation that's very favorable to the cities. So based on that, we expect to collect about 60.4 million over the 5-year period. And 8 million of that will go directly to the cities. So Bishop will receive roughly $477,000. Bogart will receive $1.9 million. They're working on stormwater issues within the city of Bogart. They've already started engineering to correct some of the stormwater issues, and so they're going to use most of that money to correct that problem. North High Shores will receive $797,000. Again, they're going to do it with stormwater and sidewalks there on Hillsborough Road. Seems to be the focus for that. And the city of Watkinsville will receive $4.4 million. And they're going to use that for roadways, paths, and also traffic efficiency. The remaining $52.5 million will go to countywide projects. We've basically broken those down into 4 categories. So our first category is property tax relief, and that will be $15 million over the 5-year period. So this category goes to transportation needs currently paid for out of our general fund for under property taxes, things like your roadside mowing, maintenance on Mars Hill beautification project that we did a few years ago. We have paving under that as well as maintaining unpaved roads, culverts, and bridges. Now, if passed by the citizens, the Board of Commissioners will reduce the millage rate by 1 mil beginning in year 2023 and running through 2027. So we just set our full rollback millage rate at 5.954 for 2022 in the unincorporated areas. So with the passage of T-Splice, the Oconee County millage rate will be at 4.954 for 2023. 24, 25, 26, and 27. And so that will equate to roughly a 17% reduction in the county portion of your tax bill each year. And we're going to discuss at our next meeting, doing a resolution, committing ourselves to that. Last time there were some questions about that not showing up on the actual ballot question. And those ballot questions are set by state law. and we're not about to offer them. So to give you some additional confidence that's going to happen, we'll be discussing that and passing that resolution, hopefully at our next meeting. The next category is multi-use paths. We have $3 million set aside for that. So paths currently in design is on Hardwick Road, Butler's Crossing, and the Wellbrook Road. The paths we've discussed over the years are Daniels Bridge Road, from High Mountain back over to Mars Hill Road, and then also coming over the trail system, or multi-use path system that will connect our high schools with both parks, Hermesy, OVP, and the future LAS site. We'll be starting the project with the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission to kind of put that on paper, and that will, we met with them today. They'll develop a draft. They will meet with Oconee County's Recreation Affairs Committee. We'll get input there, and then we'll have some public input meetings, whether it's a town hall meeting or something, so you can kind of look at those pathways and see, or make suggestions, improvements. Then the final document will be another round of comments from citizens and then adopted as a commission. Safety improvements, we have $4.5 million set aside for safety improvements. Some of the areas we're looking at, consistently over years, we've had roughly 5 intersections that have continuously been mentioned about having road infrastructure improvements. One is Lane Creek at Snows Mill, Union Church at Meehouse Jones Road, Morris Ford at Lane Creek, Collin Ferry at Assendale, and then Cold Springs at Snows Mill. These intersections are currently under design right now. We awarded that contract, I think, a month ago. So each of those we'll start actual designing the intersections are underway right now. Based on our current level of funding, this could take from 15 to 20 years to complete construction after the design is done. With T-Splosh and that $4.5 million, it'll be possible to complete it in less than 10 years for all 5 intersections. And the remaining $30 million goes to road maintenance. It's probably the least exciting component for everybody, but one that you all notice when it's not right. There are no new roads scheduled to be used under T-Splosh at all. There's only one new road that's under consideration from the Board of Commissioners at all, and that's connecting Bishop Farms Parkway, the north and the south end. And that's generally to allow UNG to expand when they get ready. They have to have another point to get in and out for safety reasons. So they're kind of landlocked and stuck on how big they can get. So that's the only road that's under consideration. Currently, we have money set aside in fund balance for that, as well as we have some state funding. Basically, it costs us roughly $200,000 to pave one or resurface 1 mile of road. So current funding level that we have with Splosh and what little bit comes out of general fund, over the next 5 years without T-Splosh, we can resurface 62.5 miles of road. With T-Splosh over the next 5 years, we'll be able to resurface 212.5 miles of roadway. And that 212 represents roughly 53.5% of our entire paved road network. And that's considering that we use the same methods that we've been using with deep patching and resurfacing. The study we just had done have indicated recommendations to try some intermediate treatments on roadways to expand their life cycle. So if we're able to implement those, we'll even hit more roads than the 212 based on the number. Sales tax is a tax that's paid by folks that don't just own property in Oconee County. It's those that are passing through who are using our roadways. In the Epps Bridge area, we have an estimate of 80% of all the transactions that occur there are being done by out of county folks. So they're using our resources. They're using the roadways, and with the T-Splosh, they will be participating in funding some of that. Just in the intersection of
Epps Bridge and Plaza Parkway or Parkway Boulevard. We estimate when Costco comes in, that's going to be $250 million worth of sales annually from just that little section. So that's $2.5 million from just that one area of the Epps Bridge Center. Cool. So that's kind of my informational part of it. So we open up to any questions anybody has on T-Splosh or any comments. The procedure is, if you would just walk up to the microphone and state your name and address, and we'll open it up for that. If you're online, we ask that you use the raise hand feature in Zoom to be recognized.
Good evening. I'm Pam Hendricks, live at 1151 Thornwood Drive, and we just voted this down, I think last year. I'm just sort of in awe that this is back on the ballot again. I'm trying to understand why, remember the state wanted a statewide 1-cent transportation tax, and the voters resoundingly said no. And then there's been this push to just, I think some areas in Georgia are doing it as a group, and then some counties are doing it. And our county said no. And the big thing, after we voted no last time, I recall that it came out that y'all were sitting on a huge surplus. I'm just very curious what your surplus of funds is right now, and why you think during this state that we're in, of rising prices like crazy. I mean, gasoline is doubled, groceries have doubled, airfares doubled. I'm just kind of in awe that y'all are wanting to raise my taxes, because I don't care. It's not going to just hit out here, people. Every time I go spend $1, I'm going to be giving another penny towards a tax. So I'd really like to know how much surplus funds you're sitting on right now.
We maintain of undesignated fund balance of roughly between 25 and 29% of our annual budget. We're going to close out this year right at the 25% mark. We do have money saved over the years to fund projects that are on the books. When I mentioned Bishop Farms Parkway, we have a couple $1 million sitting there waiting to do that road. I don't have the list. We talked about this during our budget process. It should be documented in our documents there, but I will get the document that has the breakdown from there and send that to you, so you can see exactly what projects we have and what we have money for, and then the undesignated portion of that fund balance. So your undesignated is basically your cash flow, and our goal is to be 25 to 30%. And 25 is generally the minimum on most of our indebtedness things. We try to maintain that to meet covenants on some debt that we may be carrying. The reason it's back is because these are very important projects. We have a very low voter turnout. We were approached by several citizens to try again on this, and so that's what we're doing.
Ms. Hendricks, let me address a topic that you bring up about the taxes. As you recall, we're wanting to lower the millage rate on property owners, homeowners, by a full mill. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but you have to look at the big picture. Let's Ms. Hendricks, let's talk about, are you a homeowner? Number one, 2 homes, right? And they're probably valued, I think, both of them close to 700,000. So if you that's the fair market value. Assessed value is 40% of that. So you're probably your millage rate is being applied to the $310,000 between the 2 houses. Is that correct? So that will equate to, I think, around a savings of $310 annually on your property taxes. So you have to spend in Oconee County, not Clark County, but Oconee County, $31,000 or more to not save money. So you need to look at it. All right, what does it mean to our homeowners and our property owners? If it will save you on your property taxes, think about how much you would have to spend to equate a savings. Now, let me finish and you can respond. One of the things that I'm the youngest one on this board as far as term, not age. This is government is like a 1,000 piece puzzle. How many of y'all do puzzles? Have you ever done a 1,000-piece puzzle? The pieces are small. And we have a very diverse community who's very interested in their piece of the puzzle, whether it's pickleball, tennis courts, multi-use paths, hiking trail, walking trails, whatever. But as a local government, and this is not just Oconee County, but every government is interested in having to take all those 1,000 tiny pieces of puzzle and make sure they all fit together so we have the big picture. So the issue about sales tax, I think some people use that terminology as regressive. And a textbook, you're correct, Ms. Hendricks, that it hurts the poor people. And I am so proud of you standing up for the disadvantaged and poor people of our society. Very progressive of your thinking. I appreciate that very much. But we also have to think about the fact that we have a fiduciary responsibility to maintain what we have. As the chairman mentioned, we're not going out building new roads to nowhere. We want to take care of what we have. And it's incumbent upon us to find ways to do that at the same time to keep property taxes as low as possible. So I appreciate your comments, but I just want to make sure I address that specifically for you.
One problem is that you're promising to roll back a set amount, a mill. But the dilemma here is that we saw this with the Board of Education recently, that you can roll, if property values are going up very rapidly, you could roll it back a mill and I could still pay more property tax than I paid last year. And, I would at least want you guys to make a promise that you would roll it back equal to the amount that you took in the sales tax. Because just promising a mill, we're in such rapid inflation that may be nothing. That may still mean my property taxes go up 25% plus I pay this new sales tax. So I think that's kind of an empty promise. And I just feel like it's a bad time to do this to people. We are all trying to get our footing in this new reality that we're living in. And I feel like there's a tone deafness of our elected officials. I mean, I just went through this with the Board of Education and I was bragging on you guys because y'all had rolled back the millage rate so that you didn't take in more. And the Board of Education got very greedy on us and was trying to take in more. And then here I am a couple weeks later, and y'all are adding a sales tax to us, or want to. I mean, it's gonna take us voting to do that, but it just seems a bad time to do it. I just wish we could all pause a year or two and try to figure out where things are going. Are they gonna, maybe we're going to be Venezuela. Maybe we're going to start having, 20% inflation every year, 40%, 1,000%, who knows? And this just seems like a bad time to be asking us to pull more money out of our pocket and give it y'all, which I couldn't figure out what you meant by 25%, 30%. That didn't tell me a dollar. And part of what bothers me is I'm in a lot of organizations. And the most important one is I'm on the board of my church. Every month, we have a complete financial report. And yet I've come to Board of Commissioner meetings. There's no mention of how much money y'all have in what accounts, all that kind of stuff. There's no treasurer's report at your meetings. So how can we citizens know if y'all are doing a good job with our money? And it's not done at the Board of Education either. It just blows my mind that y'all don't feel necessary to at least report it to each other. That's, at my church board, they're reporting it just to the board. But I would think that all of you need to be looking at the balances and stuff. And so when you tell me it's 25 to 30%, that doesn't tell me
what
a
I said, it
dollar
was
figure.
a 17% reduction in the amount of the property tax levied by the county. 17%. He just went through.
No,
and
I'm talking about the surplus. I couldn't tell a dollar value of the surplus. You talked about percentages.
Look, we talked about that in our budget. It's in, I'm pretty sure, I'll have to double check, in our budget presentation that we talked about it 3 different times. We have quarterly financial updates where the finance director comes up and shows us our tracking, how we're tracking on our budget, how we're tracking on income, and states the fund balance.
Are those on the website?
They should
for
be,
the public?
yes.
Okay.
Now we just closed out the year. So we have not done the final quarter because they're doing the closeout and the audit. But to stand there and say we don't talk about money and track it, that is not true.
Well,
And if you'll start watching our meetings and start coming to them, you'll see. If you had come to our budget hearings where we went through that line by line and talked about every area. And what we do is we go through and we calculate how much money we need to run the government. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And we compare that to what's coming in. That's how we were able to do the rollback. We saw how much money we needed and the millage rate was set appropriately to cover that. And that's the way we're going to continue to operate. And you can say, because the assessments are going up, you're either going to pay the 5.954 mills on the increase or the 4.954. It's still a 1 mil less than you would be paying without the T-Splosh is what we're telling you. I mean.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, that was very interesting. My name is John Webb. I live at 1320 Benton Creek Road in Watkinsville. So I wanted to throw out some questions to the commissioners, but I wanted to address one of the things that the other lady mentioned and said is that why can't we wait for a couple of years and put this down the road? My experience has been is you never gain anything by throwing stuff down the road. That's been done many, many times before. So that's my first comment about her comment about why we can't just take a breather maybe for a year or two. But I wanted to let you know, and everyone here, I'm a property owner and I'm for this transportation sales tax. I'm gonna vote for it. I'm gonna encourage all the people that I know to vote for it. Mainly because it affects me, as you said, directly. But I want to play the devil's advocate and let you answer these questions. Now, I'm a property owner, but how do you sell? Because you are in the selling business. All of us are in sales to a certain extent. How do you sell the proposed transportation sales tax to citizens who don't own property? How do you do that? Why should they vote for a sales tax increase? And it is a sales tax increase. So I'll throw that question out to start off with. Thank you.
So I would just say, look at the projects that we're trying to do. Do you want good roads to ride on? Do you want these paths? You want to see these intersection improvements occur in basically half the time for improvement of safety? So there's definitely benefits even to the non-property owner when you look at the benefits to the entire community is kind of what I would say there.
I think one of the benefits to all is the conditions of our roads, Mr. Webb. With my knowledge, I know that most paved roads has a life of 20 years. Like to see them repaved every 20 years. Unfortunately, in our efforts to hold down property taxes, we have seen the extension of that time frame to get roads resurfaced extended much further than the 20 years. And we do a lot of things to try to maintain our roads and the life of those roads. I always get amazed at, I don't know how putting tar in those cracks apparently prolongs the life of those roads. And it doesn't make a pretty road, but it makes it durable and it lasts a whole lot longer. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that we maintain what we have. And I think that benefits all. I think you may have some other questions, so I'll hold my other comments till you ask those.
There we go. Let me put it, try to do it as simple as I can. I think if you don't own property, you use all the services. You might even use the jail. Somebody's paying for that and they may not have any relatives in the jail, but we all pay for it. We all pay for Parks and Rec. If you use water, you pay for it. If you go to the restaurant and you don't, and you have a well, you're still paying for the water for the restaurant through that meal. So it's a county-wide issue. Going back to what Ms. Hendricks asked about and I'll try to give you a number that I remember. I seem to remember somewhere in the neighborhood of $9 million that was unencumbered. That is the money that protects us if we run into some type of trouble. There's some other monies in the fund balance that's already been allocated for some of the projects that the chairman's already mentioned. And let me say this, we're not the school board. We have a town hall every quarter. Every quarter, it's unscripted. We try to do it in a big room where people can take a shot at us. And I think if you've come enough, you've seen that we don't hide from what you're asking. And I think we're as tight as we can be with our funds. I do believe this, if we don't lower the millage rate again, you're going to pay probably higher taxes with the assessments going up. And we tackled that. We went and dropped it a mill. And we're willing to and going to do it again if y'all pass the T-Splost. Now, if we don't, millage rate stays at 5, not 4 in the change. So I don't know. I mean, you can vote against it if you want to. That's your prerogative. But we had a number of people ask us, and I'll give you an example of a neighbor of mine who asked me to help get his messed up road cul-de-sac. It was all beat up. I went to look at it. It was torn up. I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. I called our county administrator and we got the crew over there and they fixed it. I saw him later and I said, did the crew get over there and fix your road? Oh yeah, they sent 3 or 4 trucks, had that thing fixed, and looks really good. And then I found out he voted against the T-Splost. And I said, why'd you do that? He said, I was confused. I said, you weren't confused when you asked me to get your cul-de-sac fixed. So the point is, where does the money come from to fix those things? I've got my subdivision, I've got subdivisions around me, Victoria Station. I can't tell you how many times people stop me and say, when can we get these roads done? I say, well, it depends on money and the list. So to me, it is a way to get what needs to be fixed quicker. And you folks in here can vote against it. He gave you the numbers of how much we can do with or without it. But now I'm gonna quit, but how many school board members have talked to you like I have? So don't call me. I used to be the chairman and I take offense to it. So that's the way I feel. You have a good rest.
You'll get the next one. Hi, my name, this is very low, by the way, so I don't know if I mean, not many of us are this short. Although you might look at us that way. Anyway, my name is Victoria Cruz and I live at 1151 Lake Wellbrook Drive in Athens, Oconee County. Okay, and I would like to address my comments about this, the T-Splosh. I love the fact that you are a puzzle person. I myself am a puzzle person. I actually like to go for the 1,500, 2,000 piece. Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to preface my remarks with that. And as I heard Chairman Daniel talking about what the needs are, what the money's going to be given for. First, let me say, I've never voted against a T-Splosh till last fall. I've never not paid my taxes. So I try very hard to be a good citizen. But when I see the projects you're trying to fund at a time like this, I'm wondering if they all have the same priority. Yes, we all deserve good roads, but not all of us can use a mountain bike trail. You know, not all of us need those kinds of things. And I understand families with little children need good parks so they can have their sports. I think that's wonderful. But you're looking at imposing a 1% sales tax at a time when inflation is at a 40 or 50-year high. And okay, so that's outlay. You know, I question the outlay. I question the timing of the request. But then you are also, as well as being puzzle putters together, expected to be future readers, like Magic Ball. House prices are going up now, but I don't know if you are thinking about it. House prices, they could fall like they did in 2008. We could have another crash. Okay, so that would definitely impact the taxes we get, the taxes you will get from us, and then where will you be? The T-Splosh with inflation, how do you know, based on history, how much sales tax you're going to generate from Epps Bridge? A lot of people will not, who are coming to shop there from out of the county, maybe won't be able to come because they can't afford the gas, because the gas is too high, or they can't afford those sort of discretionary expenditures that one gets at Epps Bridge. Entertainment, eating, luxury items. You know, I don't know of many grocery stores that are in the Epps Bridge Shopping Center. We're going to get Costco pretty soon, and that may be, you know, a godsend for a lot of people if they can afford the membership fee. But this is just it. You can't rely on sales tax income to fulfill all the needs you have on your list. You also won't be able to rely on homeowner's tax for all the needs on your list. So I would hope that the least you could do right now is revise your list to something that's more reasonable for the times. And the times are very uncertain, very uncertain. You know, I don't know what life is going to be like a year from now. I honestly don't. And I want to just bring up one last thing. And I'm going to not paraphrase it right, but Milton Friedman is saying that it's very easy to spend someone else's money. You know, it's extremely easy. I know you see the need. People come to you, Mr. Horton, and they say they have a need. You were very, they were very lucky that you lived in that neighborhood and you could fulfill that need. Not every need has to be fulfilled. Okay, and I just want you to prioritize what needs to be done and adjust your budget accordingly. That's the least you can do for people who are living with this uncertainty about the future. Thank you.
So I will say our sales tax projections go back and encompass what happened back in the 2008, 2009 timeframe, when we did see a reduction in house prices, and we also saw sales tax reductions. So our projections of the $60 million takes into account a previous historical trend that included that. I'll also tell you that during the 2009, 10, 11, and 12, when the recession came in and house prices did drop, Board of Commissioners did not adjust the millage rate during that time. So there's a history there also of not raising the millage rate when the values dropped. And yeah, nobody knows the future for sure. I really don't know how to answer your priority list. I mean, 60, we're getting 54 or $52 million out of the 60 for countywide projects. 30 million of that goes to roads, which is one of our basic infrastructures. So $30 million into just that one, $15 million into property tax reduction. You've got $4.5 million into intersection improvements. And I get it, not everybody goes through the intersections I listed. Maybe we'll find some that need to take it precedent over that. But people who are traveling through those and seeing the accidents or the near misses, I mean, safety is a pretty big deal to us. So that's a high priority as well. 3 million, I get it. If you don't want to walk the trails, you don't. But it's only $3 million of 52 million that are coming in. And it's stuff that this community has time and time again come to this board and said they're interested in. So I think the priorities are there. And I understand you got to make the decision on your personal household. You know, how much, if the 17% reduction in the county taxes you pay is not enough to offset your 1%, I can understand why you wouldn't support it. If these things are not, if roadway maintenance, property tax reduction, and safety improvements are not your thing, I can understand why you wouldn't support it. Or if the $3 million that's going to go to help connect schools to parks and give families and people the opportunity to ride their bikes in a safe area is not, I can understand that as well. But anybody else want to respond?
See if it comes back. Let me address the millage rate just a little bit. I've been around, I'm finishing my 14th year. There was a break in the action and I got back on. We had a millage rate of 8.48 when I took office back in 05. Now, if we still had 8.48, I guarantee you this room would be packed. And we dropped the millage rate, I think fiscal years 7 and 8, right before. We didn't do it the first budget that I worked on because I was still trying to figure out stuff. But the millage rate is a tool that county government, school boards can used to help property taxpayers. And we dropped in 2 years, 1.6 or so. It got down to about 6 point something. And so had we not done that, it's my feeling that we would have had a struggle when the crash came. Because what it did is it took and closed the spigot, because all those assessments and all those other fees that come in to the county treasury, the commission could say, millage rate's 8.48. We're not raising your millage rate. Yeah, but you were getting clobbered. So there were some new people, including me, came on the board, and we worked to get the millage rate to 6 points and change. And it got us through the hard times that you're mentioning. I don't know what tomorrow may bring, but it was our way to help the government be tight with the money. And we were one of the few counties around that didn't lay people off. Those people who needed those jobs kept them at the county. Now, we had to cut some things, but we kept those employees. So I understand, and I will tell you, these folks up here, all fiscal conservatives. We do care about your money. And we're looking hard. Now, let me say something else I think's very unfair. This county is rated as one of the wealthiest counties in the state based on your income. But we don't tax your income. We tax your property. Now, you tell me that Clark County is poorer than we are, and their budget is what, close to 200 million, $150 million? Ours, what, 35, 38 million? Now, you tell me who's the wealthiest and who watches the money tighter. I guarantee you, you're going to find this group does, because we don't have the money they do. I ran the parking business over there for 7 years, and I know the money I was giving them. And they're spending it all over the place. We can't do that. I've got folks that want all kinds of projects, and we get to them the best we can. But I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Nobody does. But I think we work from a fiscal responsible way. I don't want to tax your money any more than you want to give it to me. I pay taxes too. And I think that's the way we've operated. And it gets us by. There's a lot of departments that would like things, but we just have to, there's a lot of citizens that want us to do these, that, and that. We just don't have the money. We have to wait to get it. The sales tax is a way to help us get. Have some really good retailers in this county. And I remember when I was school board chair and I was outgoing in 2000. That's how long, it's been a long time. I went to the planning commission meeting because we needed the money to help this school system. And Clark County didn't want Walmart. Flat didn't want it near Mitchell Bridge Road. I went as a citizen and I simply said, do whatever you got to do to get them in here. Because we could get enough money to help us build a school. So that's how critical the sales tax is. But again, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I do think having the option with the T-Splosh helps us get to what the citizens want us to fix. And we're going to take off that 1 mil off of your property. Now, if you would rather it stay at 5 and change instead of go to 4.8, vote against it. That's your prerogative, but I'm going to vote for it. You need to say that. Sure.
One of the things that most of you in here know is that I am a business owner. And so it's important to me. And we also own a decent amount of property and houses and things like you, Ms. Hendricks. I was also on the Board of Equalization for 21 years. And so I've heard the argument that you guys are talking about with the taxes for the county for a number of years. And, you know, when you're in business, you have the opportunity to go out and create your own destiny most of the time. You know, you try to, you know, sometimes like things hit you wrong and you have to deal with it. But anyway, most of the time you have an opportunity to make money, and that's why you're in business. The one thing that you've got to remember about the county government is that you don't have an opportunity to go out and make money like a business does. The only way that you can do that is to tax the community. And the one thing that we've talked about a number of times is how to be very frugal with the money, be very conservative with the money. And I think if you talk to some of the employees, they'll say that they would like to have more people in their department to be able to help them out. We have been very conservative about approving jobs. In fact, it's been held, the line has been held for quite some time on that. In fact, when I was elected to the board, it was a reduction in it. So the thing of it is, those of you that are critical of this, and I'll call it a diversification of taxes, so that landowners and house owners and business owners in the community can benefit by a reduction in their taxes. Those of you that are opposed to this, I would like for you to tell us how we're going to generate the money to be able to do the road improvements that we've got to do. I'm in the road business, so I understand what's going on with this. And if we continue down this path, then it's going to cost us more money in the long run. If you don't continue with your maintenance programs, then it will cost you more money. If you allow a pothole to continue to grow, eventually you're going to have to dig up more than just patching the pothole. That's just one small example. But those of you, and I'm certainly open for any suggestions on how to fund any of these projects. And I think that would be helpful. I know there's a lot of smart people in our county. And if you guys have any suggestions, you know, we'll certainly be glad to listen to what you have to say. But it has been, when we took office back in 2017, we looked at doing a strategic plan. And one of the goals of the strategic plan was to diversify our tax base. And so we are trying to diversify the tax base by not putting the burden on the residential homeowners, which carry the bulk of the taxes that are paid here in the county. So the opportunity is there. And the opportunity is to be able to use the sales tax, which not everybody in the county, most people will pay sales tax that are here, but you also have the opportunity for everybody that's going to be coming into the county to help you pay the services that we need for this community.
Thank you very much. To start off with, I was glad to hear Mr. Whitman tell of his ability to adopt sales cul-de-sac repaired. So I'd like to ask him, Mr. Whitman, you challenge that was attention. So if you please, let's see if we can do that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I feel patching is patching. So thank you. So I'd like to find out, everyone in this room knows that I'm for the two-pass. So it's because you have to hire some taxes, but that's right too, but I'm gonna be paying sales taxes, so I understand that. But what I'd like to ask the board, last time, when this question came up in the previous ballot, if you made any attempt to put out the facts and so the county, the enterprise, did you put out just the facts? Years ago, there was a TV program, there was a television, his last name was Rob, so I could relate to him. He said, just the facts. I want just the facts. So maybe you can put out, I know you can't stand on the side of the road with a drum with your badge on saying vote for yes for the T-Splosh, but you can put something out, can you not? Can you put out the facts through newspapers and other ways? I don't know if that was done the last time. I'm just asking because I can't recall, because sometimes my memory begins to get sort of faded. Now, the other thing I wanted, something serious I wanted to ask the commissioners was, what assurance do property owners have that the 1 mil decrease in assessments will be permanent? You know, I know you say it will be. You're saying it's going to be for the next 5 years, and I understand what you're saying. You're going to pass a resolution. I think that's what you said, and make it pretty much that you're going to commit to do this. But it reminds me, of course, each of you are subject to the electorate, because you may come up and somehow or another somebody else may come along and they may take your seat. So it reminds me of the first chapter in the book of Exodus. We all know the story of Joseph and how he helped Egypt come over and take care of the 7 lean years. But then it said in Exodus, it said, there arose a king in Egypt who knew not Joseph. So maybe there may arise a commission board that may not know and may not care about the resolution. So can you address that for me, please? Thank you very much.
Cool. Well, you're exactly right that elections have consequences, and the next board could absolutely come in here and raise your taxes. All we can do is this group sit here saying we're committing not to do it, taking a public vote, and sign a piece of paper saying we're not going to do it. Other than that, there's really no other assurances that you have, unless you just make sure this group stays in for a long time. So,
Mr. Chairman, I will say this again, having been around, maybe some people might think it's too long, some people not long enough, whatever, but what I will tell you, when we dropped it from 8.48 to 6 point, whatever it was and change, the commissions have held. They held that now, and now it's 5 point and change. So in the years that have gone by, the commissions have held. And I would hope that whomever the electorate selects to be commissioners, they will look at the history of how we've operated. But who is selected is really determined by people in the room and elsewhere in the county. But I think historically it has held. There has not been an attempt to, let's go up again. Let's go up again. That hasn't occurred. So if that helps you.
So I want to say also that several years back, so that you would not have a full change of the board, there were staggered terms that were basically issued. So there's 3 of us that have terms that are the same, and then two others have different terms. And I think that gives you some wisdom that will transfer forward. to the group. And then the group that is staying then will have some influence on those that are coming in.
And to your question, to the last ask on this, no, there was not a whole lot of work done other than just saying, here's the T-Splosh, here's what we're going to do with it. So we are trying to be more aggressive with getting the information out. I think when we had this last time, we had 2 people show up at this meeting. We got a room full tonight. So hopefully that's a good indication that people are out there looking at it. So we're going to have a more organized outreach to try to get the information out.
Evening, Dave Jackson, Hamilton Place. I'm going to try to be brief so I can make sure that if anybody else wants to speak, they get their chance. But I think I'm not convinced yet, and I'm working, and trying to get the information that I need. I think it would be helpful for the county residents to know something like our road repair rate. Back when I was on the growth group that worked here a few years ago, we talked about what was the rate of disrepair of the roads, how long were they going to last with us putting a certain amount in each year. So we had a calculation for that, and the county should know that, and that should be brought to the people so they know if we don't do something like this, then our roads will be in a disrepair state in this amount of time. And that's an easy calculation that your road crew should be able to do. I think some of my other concerns are that the citizens have already voted on this once. And so it's really hard to understand why we're coming to vote again. Right? And that makes me extremely suspicious. When they've already said one time, no, thank you. Why are we going back to the table and asking again? That's the citizens, and you're supposed to be representing us. So if that's already been said, why are we here again this evening? And I think there's a lot of questions from the citizens who have had some opportunities for about bad taste in their mouth from things like recent splost budgets that seemed mysterious, ambiguous projects that maybe came up and were paid for out of those budgets, and then money moved from another account. So I seem to recall, I don't remember if it was the jail project, but it was a few years ago where money was moving around. And there really isn't any civilian oversight of this. Yeah, we may come to a quarterly meeting that you guys have about finances, but there really isn't any civilian oversight to say, these are the projects you said this was going to fund, and this is when it should be due, and this is what will come next. And so far there hasn't been it for any of the sports, which is why I've said before, like, I'm not going to vote for another one until somebody can come up with some oversight for this that the rest of us in the county can understand, not just the commissioners. And we want to make sure that you're accountable. So if you say that you're going to reduce those taxes by $1 million, then you should commit to that. Each one of you today with the county watching, you should be committing to that. Are you going to say yes to that? Are you going to say yes to that? Each of you should be committing to that, not just some ambiguous thing of, we're going to put it up for a resolution. Commit to it. Say yes tonight, if you're willing to commit to it. But everybody should know that that's the case or it's not. Because I think the last thing all of us want is another Epps Bridge 3 project where we put in another wastewater treatment plant or another pipeline through somebody's backyard in order to service a small part of this town and destroy a larger part of the town in doing it. So we just want to be cautious of that. And that's why we're here.
So on the roadway rating, we just completed that. We talked about that about 2 months ago at our meeting. We had an outside agency come in and they performed some kind of optical measure the cracks in the road, the number of cracks, all that. So our overall score for Oconee County was 78. If we continue our present level of funding, that score will drop to 75. If we spend this money if we spend as they recommended in it, we would rise up to a solid 85. in that time period with the T-Splost. So there's your technical part of it. That I believe is still online. If not, let me know and we can get you a copy of that report. Again, we're back because these are important projects. There was a small voter turnout, and our town hall after the election, we had people stand up in this room saying, hey, this was very important. We'd like to see you try again. Again, Chuck mentioned somebody who didn't understand how the T-Splosh worked. We've all been approached in similar situations. So we'll have a much bigger turnout for sure in this election. It may be a lot bigger no. And if that's the case, you know, we're going to live through that. Again, roadways, property tax reduction, safety improvements. That's our top three in there. And that's where the money's going. I'm not sure I understand your information about money moving around and all that. I would really challenge you to help me understand that. We have outside auditors. We have not moved money around. I think what you're talking about in a SPLOST that we did not collect the amount that we had thought we were going to collect. And we advanced the payment on the jail in order to get that debt paid off so it wouldn't roll into the next SPLOST. There was no shell game. It was done in an open meeting, and we explained at that time, here's what's going on. So meeting our debt obligations took precedent over whatever other project might have been. I think we've got a very strong history of following the SPLOST and producing the projects that we say we're going to produce. Not all of them happen in the time frame we hope to. The tennis courts at OVP are good. They were supposed to be in the previous SPLOST, but we expanded fields that took up the more money than we had been projected earlier. So we're doing these 5 or 10 years ahead, so prices change, and then once you get into engineering, there's different costs as well. So I really challenge you on that. There's some kind of shell game going on with SPLOST. That's not the case. And I'll be able to. We'll pull whatever records you want to pull to kind of go back and see. But as long as I've been up here, everything's been done in a public meeting, and that's the only instance I can remember that I can think of. And I don't even know if that's really considered a transfer between projects. It's just honoring the debt payment that need to be made. So I think I hit everything. Did you have?
You remember there was many meetings about the Calls Creek, and I think I was at about every one of them. Yeah, and that project never happened. We are taking the line away from subdivision back out 441. So
That project never happened, but it didn't happen because there was real pushback from the civilians in our.
and I was one of them. If you remember, I was one of them. Yeah, but I was one of them. And when I got back on the board, I fought like a dog not to have it. I think anybody who was on the board with me would agree. But that didn't happen. And the commission went another way, away from the homes. Okay? All right. That's what happened.
It happened after citizens. I pushed back.
I don't deny that.
Because for a part of time, there were people surveying in backyards before the citizens even knew.
I'm not saying I disagree with you, but what I'm telling you is but with the citizens, their issues, the county went another way. And that's what happened. The other issue that I would also bring up is the sales tax money that was still in, I think, 04, that 04 referendum had been sitting and sitting and sitting. And when I got back on the board, part of the questions I was getting was the money was sitting too long. And I agreed. When I was on the commission the first time. Money shouldn't be staying in there that long. But when the commission changed I don't think there's any funds left in any of them except the ones we're working on. So I do think, and I'd be curious too, to know anything about movement of money where it shouldn't have gone. Because you can get indicted for those kind of things. But I would say that I think this commission has been very cognizant of the fact that let's do it by the book and go that way. Let me tell you, I'm glad you asked me, because I will then have 6 times that I have lowered the millage rate. I'd be glad to do it tonight if we could, because I don't think anybody will ever break that record. So, well, do you want me to vote yes to lower the millage rate? I told you I want to break the record for all time. That'd give me 6 times I will have voted to lower it. Is that not saying yes? What would you like me to say? Yes. I just want the record too.
Yes. Yes.
100% yes.
I'm offended by your question, but yes.
And I will add, I don't know that that's what you're saying about the Calls Creek line, that the citizens spoke out against it and it got changed, is a negative. I mean, I think that shows that this commission does listen and makes adjustments accordingly. Yes, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen. You were saying that you're not taxing our income. My money's not any good to me until I spend it. And if I'm spending 1% more on everything that I buy in this county, I consider that a tax. Another thing is that this 1% rollback, you guys need money and you want a sales tax. So why are you doing the 1% rollback? It looks like what I call bait. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, if you were genuine about it, you would say that we're going to roll it back 1%, whatever that rate is. We're going to keep it until the SPLOST ends. So it would last 5 years as well as the SPLOST. Okay, the SPLOST is 1%. That's 1%. The millage rate is 1/10%. So they're giving you 1/10% and they're taking 1%. You got Costco coming online, a bunch of new businesses coming on. And so you want to raise the millage, I mean, you want to raise the sales tax. Okay, now these sales tax go for a period of time. I have yet to see one end. I've yet to see a SPLOST end and to go back to the old rate. You said that you've been responsible wards of the last SPLOST that we've had. Why did it never go back to 6%? Anyway, I just think that you need to be more responsible with the money that you're getting. You got a $32 million slush fund. I mean, you don't.
It'd be nice if you looked at the financials before you come up here and start saying something like that. That would be to come up here educated and attack us would be a lot better than just throwing stuff out.
The rest of what I said has good merit.
Well, the 1% SPLOST case stays on because we go back and we ask again, do you want to continue? Do you want additional tennis courts? Do you want paving to continue? So because the SPLOST was voted back in is not being disingenuous. Well, that's fine. You can come up here and do that without all the other though.
Yeah, I want to know where it's at. That's a school board.
No, there's not 32 million. Again, we need to get educated before you come up here and start talking in the microphone. He don't. Got somebody on Zoom?
Hello, my name is Mahesh Sampath, and I'm county resident, and I'm also a property owner. And your proposal of reduction in the millage but increase the sales tax, in one respect, from my perspective, I'm saving on the left side of my pocket and spending on the right side of the pocket. So I'm not sure there is much benefit, but the value that I see is if you can attract the businesses like Costco, which will draw the people from probably another surrounding 10 counties, and they all will be paying sales tax. So it's a good way to get other people of outside the county to pay for our expenses. So I want to, bottom line, I support the proposal.
Yeah, so I believe with that is the case. We indicated 80% of the Edgebridge Center is estimated to come from outside the county. And that number will likely increase with the addition of Costco. And you're right, you'll have to do your own calculation where the 1% additional for the amount you spend in Oconee County offsets your 17% reduction. And maybe you wash, maybe you pay a little more, I don't know. The big benefit to the county is that a lot more people are paying the extra penny that are not property owners. And so that's the whole theory behind it, where we're going to collect $52 million for countywide projects that otherwise we would not get. And that's being shared over the population that shops and participates in commerce in Oconee.
Hi, again, I'm Victoria Cruz, 1151 Lakewood Drive in Oconee County. I have also, you may recognize my name because I recently sent you all an email highlighting my concerns. I understand that we are talking about the T-SPLOST here, and I think that the people who wanted to input have done so, and I'm glad they have. But what comes to mind as we are discussing this is that you're asking us for more money through the T-SPLOST, which was defeated in the fall, but you also have a fail-safe. Your fail-safe to get the money that you need is to keep the millage rate the way it is. With home prices going up, you'll get the money that you need to do the kind of stuff you need to do. And I do appreciate every one of you up there who is doing the job that most of us are just not equipped to do. We're not cut out for it. In many ways, you are better for that. But there are also instances, and I'm not talking about present companies, where people are not fit for it. And that's what brings me to the concern I have now about our elections. I'm sure you have all heard the phrase taxation without representation. Okay, and I'm not saying that applies to what you're asking us for here, but I see that as applying to what has happened in our state and what has happened in our country. Citizens of this country, including Oconee County, have been so far removed from control over their elections that it's almost as if there are no elections. And there are many ways that the elections have been taken out of the control of the citizens. One is massive inflation in the voter rolls. This is something, I know our elections department does everything right. And Chairman Daniel, you asked me, do I know of any instance where specifically Oconee County Elections Department has done something wrong? I don't have that, but That's because the control of elections are not under the Oconee County Elections Board or Elections Director. The control of that is coming from elsewhere. It's coming from the state and it's coming from the federal government. The voter rolls are bloated. More than 30 states, including our own, use an outsourced voter registration system, which when the state agrees to join that, they sign away all of our data. Not just voter registration data, healthcare data, tax data, motor vehicle data, all of that goes to this system. And they are tasked with the job of keeping the voter rolls clean, to check the national change of address registry around the country to make sure that people aren't duplicate registered. I moved from state to state to state when I was younger. And did I remember to correct my voter registration? I don't think so. But I'm kind of hoping that if I didn't vote in that state I didn't live in for 50 years, I'm now 69, 50 years, that I would have been dropped off the voter rolls automatically by law. That's what should be happening, but it's not. This Eric, which Raffensperger had us join, I have no idea whether the legislature approved it. I'm going to find out next session. They are taking all of this motor voter data and all this healthcare data, and they are mashing it all up, and they are not removing a single voter. In fact, they are inflating the voter rolls, and that Oconee County Elections has no control over. And they specifically want healthcare and financial and social services data so that they can target the outreach to various groups to increase the votes in those areas, or increase the voters, the quote unquote voters, who may be registered in many other states, but they'll still be voting in the demographic they want them. This is something we don't have control over. Okay, we also don't have control over the system in which we vote. You all remember the hanging chads? Anybody old enough to remember the hanging chads? Okay. The hanging chads was scripted. It was scripted on the national stage to make everyone realize that relying on a piece of paper for your vote, this would happen to be the punch cards, which we've all used, but relying on a piece of paper for your vote was not reliable. We've got to have something better. Oh, I know. Let's get electronic voting systems in it. And that was, I guess that was the 2000 election. Within 2 or 3 years, the electronic voting systems are in, and guess who was first to line up and make every county in the state use them? Georgia. Georgia. No exceptions. You had to do it. And it's really one of only 3 that require, one of only 3 states in the union that require it. Many counties use it, yes, they do. Okay, so we have electronic voting systems. I don't know what you've heard about the voting systems. Venezuela comes up a lot. Hugo Chavez comes up a lot. But these systems were developed by our intelligence agencies to use abroad, because in order to bring democracy to other countries, we needed to take control of their elections and have them elect democratic leaders. And maybe that was a good thing. Maybe it worked. Certainly back then, I thought it was a good thing. I thought our country was good. I'm just not so sure about that now.
It's the best.
Our country.
Our country is the best.
No, yes, our voting system is not. Our country is the best. It is the best. That's why we need to come to the citizens of this little county and beg for money to repair the roads. Every president, every state person who wants to be elected says infrastructure, infrastructure. And yet here we are. And our federal government is now calling climate change part of infrastructure. The election system is infrastructure. Diversity is infrastructure. Do you see where things have kind of gone off the rails here? The real infrastructure is not being taken care of. The money's not there to do it. Where's the money going? I am pretty sure that the money going over to Ukraine could be very well used here. I'm not saying that the Ukraine situation is not terrible. Let me get down to what my ask is, because I could go on about this forever, as you can tell. And that's why I prefaced coming here with an email. And it was an email and not a letter, because I wanted you to have links to some of the things I know and to understand how things are getting out of our control. Citizens across the nation understand that our elections are now out of our control because of these machines. Okay, they are hackable. Votes can be changed. Ballots can be changed. Our votes are synthesized into a QR code or a barcode that we can't read, that no one can read. It's proprietary. The software in the machines is proprietary, which means we can't look at it. We can't even get access to the machines. However, one lawsuit that was brought in Georgia, the start, the birthplace of these electronic voting systems, a suit was brought against the old DREs, you know, just the touch screens where you just sort of got your card back and hope for the best. No paper trail. Those were challenged by a bunch of nonpartisan groups, nonpartisan, and this is a nonpartisan issue. It's not just because my sports team didn't win. I know something's wrong. Okay, so 2017, suit against Brian Kemp as Secretary of State says these machines are not reliable. It went up to a federal court and the judge agreed. They are not reliable. They're hackable. The people don't know what's happening. They're closed box. You got to get rid of them. So what did they do? Against the objections of many cybersecurity experts and citizens of all walks of life, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent, they came and they said, no, you are giving us a system that's just as bad. And the judge agreed. In October 2020, everybody knows Curling v. Raffensperger. Curling v. Raffensperger, that started in 2017, came to somewhat of a conclusion in October 2020, but the judge said, I understand these are illegal because our law says the paper ballot that is generated has to be readable by the voter. Yeah, I can read the words. I can't read the QR code. And the QR code is what counts the vote. All right, but too close to the 2020 general election for her to do anything about it. So she sealed the cybersecurity report. You've probably also heard of Professor Haldeman. Sealed his 25,000 word report, and it remains sealed to this day. And she said it was because she didn't want to influence the outcome of the lawsuits against Dominion. Or she didn't want it to be available to hackers to hack the election. Okay, so that report is still sealed. So citizens have been trying ever since then to get access to a lot of things. Access to the ballots. If you have no control, do I need to warn you about?
Yes, ma'am. We got some other people.
All right. Well, I just want you to know that you will tell me, most counties are. I'm not the only one showing up. Perhaps you've seen the videos of other people showing up at counties. We've been told the county commissions have no authority to do this. That's not true. You will be told it's not true. It's not true. You do have the capability of getting these if it's impracticable or impossible. I don't see how it's practicable to use an illegal system. Judged illegal by a federal judge. It violates by illegal, I mean, violates Georgia law. Okay, and they'll say, well, you have to go to your legislature. We tried. We've been trying. The same groups have been trying for years to get transparency in our elections. At the last minute, every effort is blocked by the Secretary of State influencing the legislators, governor influencing the legislators. The people can't get this done. We're all at our wit's end, and we're all suffering the consequences of what may be a failure to have any control over our elections. I just want you to consider that you do have the authority. The lawyers don't have the right to intercede between the people and the legislators. That was never the way it was intended. And the last thing I'm going to say is that all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men and women do nothing. I hope you do not do nothing.
Commissioners, good evening. Chuck Williams, Old Watson Springs Road, Watkinsville, and South Oconee. I want to first thank y'all for being here tonight and for the previous times you've held these town hall meetings. Y'all don't have to do this. And some other governing bodies in the county have proven that this does not have to be done, but as a taxpayer, I appreciate y'all doing it and giving us this opportunity to interact. I own a couple of residences in Oconee County. I own a few hundred acres of timberland. My wife and I are retired, fixed income, and you've heard all of that before. Oconee's got a lot of affluence, but it's also got a lot of folks that are really having to plan on how they're going to pay their property taxes. They're having to budget to pay property taxes, and I appreciate the job y'all do from a fiduciary standpoint. I supported the regional T-Splosh. I supported the county T-Splosh. I'm a believer in sales tax in lieu of property taxes wherever possible. And I really like the idea of non-Oconee residents getting to share in our wealth and help pay for road improvements and other improvements that we need. I'm personally glad that this is back on the ballot, Mr. Chairman. I think I've heard you say publicly that maybe the county's marketing that the previous T-Splosh was not as robust as it could have been. And we know that voter moods can swing and swing quickly. So I applaud y'all for having the courage to put it back out there and let the voters take another look at it with maybe more information. Really, the only concern that I have is what Ms. Hendricks alluded to in her opening remarks. I know y'all have already taken a blood oath tonight on that 1 mil reduction. But as we saw just a few weeks ago with other county budgets, it's not all about the millage rate. The assessed values come into play. And I do have a concern, not that you would willingly and knowingly let increased tax digest basically negate and outrun that 1% cut. But if we continue to see appreciation in Oconee property values, and depending on how often tax assessor does large reassessments of Oconee values, at some time within that, say, 5-year period, that we could see another significant bump up in values, and that 1% really might not accomplish what you intended for it to accomplish as far as a rollback. I don't know under the laws what you can commit to from one fiscal year to the other and from one BOC body to the other. And I'm not asking for a blood oath. I'm just asking that this body, if the 5 of you are in office and that were to occur, that y'all would take a serious look at maybe increasing that 1%, that 1 mil rollback if need be, to negate the impact of increased tax digest. Thank you.
And so I would just point to what happened this year. We calculated what we needed to operate the government, and we rolled back the tax millage rate appropriately. We weren't able to do a full rollback the previous year, but we did roll it back some, or reduce the millage rate once we figured out the amount of money we needed. So that's just how this group is operating, and I would expect it to continue in that direction.
The only thing I would say, my record, and I'll make it as clear as I can, I have voted in the affirmative, yes, to lower the millage rate 5 times. And I said publicly not long ago that if the T-SPLOS passes, I will have a chance to hit 6 in the affirmative. I don't think anybody's ever done that. I will also say this commission, I think as money was coming in from assessments, you look at it, and I've heard all of them, we can't keep it. We got to give it back. We keep what we got to have, we give the rest back. And I think that's how we've been operating. And, you know, it's easy to go say, because we got a lot of needs, a lot of people want things, you know, we could go but, you know, you take what you need and you give it back. And so I think we'll continue doing that.
Mr. Williams, I want to address one of your comments that you made. One of them is about the assessment itself. And the assessment is dictated by state law. You have to, every year, you're supposed to meet the 40%. And so in order to do that, you have to assess the market and all of the homeowners and the property owners and everybody else. So that's a state dictated process. It's not a county process. And then if we do not meet that certain range close to the plus or minus on the 40%, then we can be penalized. And so the values are based on the market value plus, you know, other factors, but it is a state regulated as opposed to a county regulated.
Let me speak to Mr. Williams' comment. Chuck, we've been around here a long time, thank goodness. And I've heard for a long time, we don't raise your taxes. We don't, no, you do raise my tax. You just don't change the millage rate, but my tax bill goes up every year. And I went back just to see, I was curious of just how much my taxes have gone up as a result of not raising the taxes. So when I ran for office, the one thing that came to my mind was that, and I won't call those elected officials, some of them are still around, they bragged about, no, we never raised the millage rate. I said, yeah, but my taxes kept going up. So I'm very much tuned into that, Mr. Williams. And also, when I was running for office in 2020, I listened and I heard what people were saying about, you know, property taxes, the growth of the digest, you know, we need some relief. And when I was fortunate enough to be elected, that was one of my goals. Well, thank goodness I joined a board of commissioners who had the like mind that I did about that. And I was proud to see when the chairman came forward and said, we're not going to have to, you know, we're going to roll back enough millage rate so it's not taxing the increased valuations. The 3% increase in the digest was a result of new growth. And that's what it's all about. So I'm with you there, Mr. Williams. I always remember that when I hear these politicians say, I never raise your taxes. Bull is what I say. Bull.
Just a couple of comments. I travel around at times and go off to places with ACCG where I get to meet other commissioners from all over the state of Georgia. If you don't know, this is 159 counties, state of Georgia. I challenge you to go look at the mill rate for all the other counties versus ours. Now, I'm not saying that we can't still continue to do things right. We want to do what's right in Oconee County. So we don't compare that to everybody else, but I just want you to look at where we're at compared to all the other counties, in the state of Georgia. All these commissioners I talk to are always saying, y'all got the greatest county. That's why in my 25 years in the military, I never moved my family out of this county because it is a great county. And once again, just challenge you to go online, look at the mill rates for the other counties. Ms. Cruz, you're talking about, we were on topic of the T-Splosh and you went a different direction than everybody else, but you did mention a couple of times about the T-Splosh, and we pride ourselves in making Oconee County a beautiful place, and maintaining it is a part of the deal. That is part of the deal. As citizens of Oconee County, you have a responsibility to help us maintain it. We represent you, and we always try to do what's right by you. But we also want you to know when you're coming up here to do certain things, look at all that you're going to talk about versus what we're trying to do for the citizens of Oconee County. And I ain't talking about just roads. I'm talking about rec, fire, police, you name it. Everything in this county is at top notch. And every other community, every other commissioner I talk to across the state of Georgia is always recognizing that. But sometimes we have citizens that don't recognize the fact that how good we got it here. Thank you.
Julie Mock, I live in Summit Grove, and I agree with everything Chuck said. And y'all know I appreciate what you do, and I really appreciate you coming and doing these town hall meetings. I think it's very important, and I do wish the Board of Education would do that. I think you're much better stewards of our money than they are as well. So kudos to you. But I only have two questions, and you probably said it earlier, but I can't remember what they were. How long would the T-Splosh last? And also, how long would the millage rate reduction last? So would they be in sync and run concurrently?
Yeah, so the T-Splosh lasts for 5 years, and the millage rate reduction will be for the entire 5 years. So 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27 year will have the 1 mil rollback.
Jeff Hood, Julian Court, Watkinsville. Quick question. So very important election coming up, and we're losing Rebecca Anklin, our director of elections. And she's also, I think, the chair of the board of elections. So that's a pretty big void with this election just a few weeks away. So can you tell us what to expect to fill that?
So in the past, the board of elections director and the chair have been the same person. And in order to have that position as chair, you must be a resident of Oconee County. It's always worked out well that we had somebody coming along who was ready to step into the role of director that was also a resident of Oconee County. With all the attention to elections now, people who want to even take that job are very limited. So what we've decided to do is split the roles of chair and director of elections. So the director of elections will be hired with no residency component to it. Hopefully we'll have an announcement next Tuesday night after our meeting, after we go into executive session, of who that director will be. Also, we have started taking applications for chair of the Board of Elections. That's on our website now. Anybody you know that has interest should put in for it, and we'll make that appointment as quickly as possible. The remaining board members are very capable of continuing on. We have a vice chair that was already elected by the group, so there will be leadership to continue on. But we do expect to have the director in plenty of time. Also, Rebecca's left us in really good shape, and she has some flexibility where she'll be able to come back and help us if something pops up in between the transition period. But that's kind of our action plan for that.
Rick Caffrey, 1430 Oconee Crossing Circle. I know we're not allowed to talk about any pending rezone, but I'm counting about 35 people that are here in the room. And we're probably going to have, 100 to 120 people that are going to come to the September 13th meeting. From a logistical perspective, is there any way that we can move that meeting here? because the folks that are out in the hallway at the Board of Commissioners office, they can't hear what's going on. So then you've got the audiovisual equipment. I mean, is that something that's doable? I mean, we're talking about
3 to 4 times the amount of people that are here tonight for one, and that's September 15th. Meeting.
Yeah, we'll try to address the audio for the next time. We've run advertisements that say where this is going to be. So relocating, I don't believe is an option. The technology we have set up in the commission chambers is not transferable up to the courtrooms, or we would have done that. We've looked at that several times, try to figure that out. So unfortunately for that amount of time, it's just going to have to be a tight fit.
But you're saying the audio will be.
Yeah, we should. I think it was fine from our stand. I think the mic wasn't on at the podium the last time. So I think we've got that figured out. We'll do some testing to make sure before you get there. Whoever's on Zoom can go ahead. Anybody else?
I'm sorry, you probably don't want to hear from me again, but my understanding was that this is a town hall and you are allowed to bring up anything you want to talk about. I did respectfully wait until the T-Splosh people had talked. So I hope that is understood. Also, in my nervousness, because I'm not a public speaker, I don't do this. I'm not a public servant, and I do applaud you all for being that. I forgot my ask. My ask, like you had and if and or but my ask is that you use your authority to return voting in Oconee County to hand-marked paper ballots and either counting by an optical scanner, which we own, and we can reasonably use in good time for a voting population of a little over 30,000. So if 100% of those turn out, even the fake ones, we can use the optical scanner. Hand-marked paper ballots. This is a system that's used in emergencies all the time. The other thing is the Board of Elections and the director, and I'm sorry to say this because I love Rebecca, she's wonderful. Sorry to see her go, but all 159 counties are being sued right now because of their failure to honor an open records request at the May 24th primary. They're all being sued in Spalding County. So every county is going to have to take the cost to underwrite the cost of fighting that lawsuit if they do decide to do that. And I have a feeling that most of them will. What Oconee County can do to offset that cost, and again, always thinking about budgets, is to merely consent to the ask of the lawsuit, which is to have access to the paper ballots generated from those machines so that they can be hand counted. The readable portion can be hand counted and do a proper audit. So that I just wanted the public, whoever's listening, and the board to know that that is happening. And the appeal is out there for all counties to please merely consent to the ask, which is not much. We should have the right to that.
So then that's why the lawsuit's being filed. There's a different interpretation of what the law is going to allow. So that's going to have to work its way through the court system on what the state law is saying versus what the interpretation is. So, I think our Board of Elections does a great job, as you mentioned. I think our elections are secure in Oconee County. I think the results have been accurate, and I think we'll continue to have that with our new director and whoever the chair of that commission, election commission is. Thank y'all so much for coming. We appreciate it and hope to see you next quarter.